Okay, so this is not as pretty as it can be, but it'll work. So welcome everybody, and this is live streaming Strumstick Lessons brought to you by me, Bob McNally, at strumstick.com. The graphic for strumstick.com is not up there, but you can contact me by typing in the chat. You can also write to info@strumstick.com, and you can see these various videos that we've done listed on a specific page on our website. And if you look under videos, you'll see one of the links is for the streaming Strumstick lessons, and also under instructions, there's a link to that page. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work with the Eagles Hotel California, because it's a very interesting chord progression for the Strumstick, and it's in some ways an unlikely song, given it has kind of some built-in sort of modulations where it seems to change key as you go through the song, but it lands on chords that are available for the Strumstick. So let me just do a little adjustment on my headphone cord here. And as we've said many times, I'm not picking these songs necessarily because they are what I know to be a song that everybody is dying to play. Certainly Hotel California was a huge success and is a huge hit, and is also maybe suffered for the hugeness of its hit. It's not always regarded in all musical circles as a great song, but it's a very interesting song. And if you're around when it was around, you probably like it. So, greetings to Thunder Bay. I just always love that name, Thunder Bay, up northern Ontario. Okay, so let's look at the chords first, and it's B minor. And forgive me, the video just will not be quite as clear with the iMac video as it is with the my good camera running. But I'll try to keep explaining things. So there's B minor, then F sharp is just a bar at the 2nd fret, and then A, you could finger the basic A would be these two outside strings at the 1st fret, but you could also use this, and you can also use this, which is sort of a modified A, and you can use this that looks a lot like a guitar D chord, but at the 1st fret and 2nd fret for the A. We'll see why we might choose some of these A's over others as we go through the song. Then E, which will do a bar at the 2nd fret. Now this E and this F sharp are technically power chords. They're not a full 3-note chord. They're just the 1 and the 5 of each of those chords. So this could work for F sharp major or F sharp minor. And in this case, we're asking for F sharp major, but we're not getting the major third. And then the E, we're thinking E major. Later on, we'll be doing E minor, which is a true minor. So after the E is G, and then D. You could use this fingering, works nice because there's a little melody bits that can work off this fingering for D. And then E minor, either bar at the 1st fret plus pinky at the 3rd fret, or bar at the 1st fret and pinky at the 3rd fret on the 3rd string, and then F sharp again. And that's all the chords that we'll need to do the song. So let's just start right in. And the rhythm, there's a couple different like theme rhythms that we could use for this. This basic now I'm doing a couple things I'm doing stuff with the right hand and stuff with the left hand. So let's just do the right hand. So it's bum, da, da, bum, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. Let me do it a little slower because it's a little blurry on the right hand here. Down, down, up, down. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then the 4 beat is left silent. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And you can always do a fake down strum where that blank beat is. 1, 2, and 3, fake. 1, 2, and 3, fake. 1, 2, and 3, fake. And we're also going to do a cutoff with the left hand by just flopping the fingers over. And of course, when you play chords, you're working hard to make all the notes clear and to make sure you're not bumping any extra strings. In this case, we want to let them flop over to deliberately muffle all the strings. And we're going to strum while that muffle is there. So it's down, down, up, down, strum, down, down, up, down, strum, where we were doing the fake when I wasn't going to do the cutoff. So now it's... So that's a basic rhythm you could start this with. We could also do it like this. We could go down, down, up, down, down, and then just cut off without doing the snare effect by strumming on those strings. I'm going to still let them flop, but I'm not going to strum on them. So it's this rhythm would be down, down, up, down, strum, and then cut off. Exaggerated motion. So down, down, and down. That's with the snare while I do the cut off, and then here. And I'm going to do both of those again at a slower tempo because I want you to hear the difference between those because they're both very useful. Down, down, up, down, ch. Down, down, up, down, ch. And that ch is the snare where I'm muffling the strings and strumming on the muffled strings, kind of like the sound of a snare drum. Down, down, up, down, ch. Down, down, up, down, ch. The other one is down, down, up, down, strum, and immediately cut off, but don't do a strum. Sorry, down, down, up, down. And the two variations, 1, 2, and 3, cut, 1, 2, and 3, cut, but without the snare, or 1, 2, and 3, 4, cut. 1, 2, and 3, 4, cut. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and cut right after the 4. And if you want to articulate that, you can say 4, 4, instead of saying the word 4. 1, 2, and 3, 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 4. Okay? So you could combine any of those three. Okay, so on the dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. See that? When you're doing the bar, it's a perfect setup for that cutoff because you're already holding all the strings. Warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw, I could go to this D or this D. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. Now you could leave this open without those percussive effects. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head heavy and my heart, my head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. So you can see how that sort of follows the theme rhythm that you hear in the song. And we could add more upstrums to that too, to make it a little busier, or we could leave out some downstrums. Leave out some of those upstrums to make it more open. So I'm sorry, A there. And then the E. Now that change from A to E, we're only changing one note. The open second string becomes first fret, but that's the only difference between this A and this E. So we might use this A so that we perceive more of a difference as we shift to the E chord. So this would be B minor, we're just doing down strums, F sharp, A, E. Big change sound there. G, D, E minor, F sharp. So you can almost, even with just that very simple steady beat, which would be monotonous if we did that all through the whole song, you can feel that sort of backbeat drive to the song, or that steady pound happening there. So that's part of the essence of the rhythm of the song, is that beat being very strong, even if you're not hitting it every single time necessarily. So and you can also, as we've talked about this before, you can lift that chord at the end of its group, like so the B minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At that last 4, I could lift it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that creates a pickup rhythm where you're doing something a little different on the 4 beat before the next chord change. And it's a lot like saying, before you say something. So like, I'm going to tell you something, and my name is Bob, and now I'm going to do this new chord, and now I'm going to do another new chord. So it's like a little, you could call it like saying like, and you could even call it that. So you could say B minor, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, F sharp, A, E. And if you think of the chord name, instead of being E, if you think of the chord name being E, let's pretend that's its name, E. And so you open up the strings when you're saying So one more time. Okay, so and it's starting to sound like the song when you put that little pickup, the little pickup open strings in between. It gives it that little bit of a lift. Now, if we do that in conjunction with some of those rhythms that we just did. And now I'm going to add some of the percussive things. So we have E. And there I just started, instead of doing the cutoff, I just picked it up. I picked it up twice. So 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. That would substitute for the muffled. And with each of these little variations that we're doing, the idea is you don't have to make a rigid formula of I'm going to do this one for this many measures, and then I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do this one. You want to practice all of them and have them sort of, at your fingertips, at the tip of your pick, so to speak, so that you could just kind of smoothly do any one of them, and you'll find yourself almost naturally shifting from one to the other after you've practiced them all a bit, because there's a different rhythmic intensity with each of these little elements, and so by shifting these elements around, you're actually varying the density and intensity of the rhythm that you're making. And then when you add more upstrums or strum fewer upstrums or even leave a fake downstrum out or two, now you've got a lot of control over what's happening with the rhythm. And if you think about a drummer with a kit, they've got a kick drum, sometimes two kick drums, they've got a couple of tom-toms, they've got a snare, and they've got a hi-hat, and they've got a ride cymbal at the least. So they've got a whole bunch of different sounds available. So they're still often working with not more than 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but they've got all these different sounds that any one of those beats and offbeats could be a different sound from the kit. So they could have doompa doompa doom ch doompa doompa doom ch, or they could have doom ch doom ch doom doom ch, and those the same 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so when you think of it in terms of having different sound effects available to plug in at any point in a rhythm, that gives you a lot of room for being expressive and changing the texture of the song as you go through the song. Now, of course, first you do a steady beat, you get through the song, you learn the chord changes, you get the feel. If you're singing and playing at the same time, and that's a challenge, then you work on that with a simple rhythm, so you don't have to do all this complicated stuff. But individually, none of these things are that complicated, and yet they have a profound effect on the way the song feels. So now I'm going to play this. I'm not going to plan ahead exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play through the verse. And I just did 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 at the end of that F sharp at the end of the verse. The way they do the verses, it's like two verses they call one verse. So the next verse that follows this is, and she stood in the doorway. That's the second half of the first verse. I'm just going to call this the first verse and that the second verse. So you've got two verses and then a chorus, and then two verses and then a chorus, and then two verses and a chorus. Or you could say one long verse and a chorus, one long verse and a chorus, one long verse and a chorus. So let's take a look at the chorus before we start adding some melodic things in. And let's see. I have to bring the chorus in freshly. Bear with me. Image, add existing. And I have this all set up for the other scene, and we have Hotel California chorus, and that's there, and we will close out the verse. Drag this over to where you can see it. Okay. Welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place, such a lovely face, plenty of room at the Hotel California, any time of year, you can find it here. Okay, so there's our same basic rhythm, bump, 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 and we might do the ch, bump, bump, strum, 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 ch, strum, 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 ch. Or we might cut off, strum, strum, strum. Sorry, strum, 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 strum. That's what I want. Or we might go strum, 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 cut off, strum, 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 cut off. And again, the difference. And so let's just say that again. 1, 2, and 3, cut. 1, 2, and 3, cut. And 1, 2, and 3, 4, cut. 1, 2, and 3, 4, cut. 1, 2, and 3, 4, cut. So it's two different ways of going through that. And in the chorus. Now, this beat can start to get ponderous if you carry it through, because this song it has that strong beat and that strong back rhythm, that dun da da dun, that later in the song becomes da 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 dun, da 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 dun, da 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 dun. But it's kept light by the fact that as they play it, you've got bass and you've got electric guitars, but you also have an acoustic 6-string and an acoustic 12-string, and as well as an electric 12-string in parts of the song. So those acoustic guitar chords keep the thing more open. An acoustic guitar just doesn't get as drivey as an electric guitar does, even if you're doing the same exact rhythm, because the way the notes build up and sustain are different on the two. So on the chorus in particular, I think is a place to lighten this song up a little bit, is to not keep it ponderous. Now, I just did it in a pretty ponderous way there. So how could we lighten it up? Well, I think if we do less of the percussive techniques and we do a little more up strums and we strum a bit more, so we have, instead of going, instead of doing that rhythm, if I do more up strums. I could still do or not do the in front of the chord, where I lift the chord. See, I worked my way from up to towards the end of the verse. Now, when you hear that just by itself, it's pretty monotonous to just go. But when you hear it with the words in front and it's been a development from something else, it creates a completely different texture as you get towards the end of the verse. So, welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place, plenty of room at the Hotel California, any time of year, you can find it here. Now, you can hear the difference as that verse comes along. As it gets busier, there's more support under the words as you get to the second half. Now let's take that slow down. We're going to do that one more time and play, by all means, play along here if you want. We're going to go 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. That's going to be our tempo and that approximate rhythm, and I'm going to get gradually busier with more up strums as I move through. Welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place, such a lovely face, busier, plenty of room at the Hotel California, any time of year, you can find it here. And there's a great interplay between the rhythm of the words, ba 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 ba. That's plenty of room at the Hotel California. Ba 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 ba. I'm sorry. Ba 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 ba. Depending how you phrase California, which is going over. And that comes out as ba 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 ba. That's just beautiful. There's all that syncopation in the words, and the steady beat and offbeat going on the strum stick, and they just lay together nicely. It's like, stereo for your rhythm, kind of. And then when you get to the E minor, you could just keep going with it. Da 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 da. See, now any time of year you can find it here. That's kind of like a rhythmic rhyme. Ba ba bum 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 ba ba bum bum bum. Any you can, time find, of year it here. So it's the same rhythmic phrase but with different words to it. I call that a rhythm rhyme. It's not, doesn't have any direct relationship to a rhyme, but it's a repeated rhythm with syllables that match. So at this point, you could keep that. But it also might make sense to go like a single down strum. Exposed down strum at the beginning without, it's leaving out one of those up strums. So instead of, I'm going 1, 2, and 3 and 4, and 1, 2, and 3 and 4 and. So I'm leaving out one of the ands. It's an and after every of the 4 numbers. So there's 4 ands, and I'm taking away one of them. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 and 4, and 1, 2, and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we were in the 1 and 2 and for the G and the D, and then we leave it out at the E minor and come back to it on the F sharp, which makes the coming back to it on the F sharp stand out again. Whereas if you do it all the way through, it gets less and less novel each of the 4 times you do it. So when the G comes in with that, that's new, it's exciting, it's got more going on. And then the D, chord change, oh, but the rhythm's still happening. Oh, that's cool, I get it. And then, oh, there's a little break here. What's next? Oh, going back to that that busy beginning thing. So those are the kinds of, it's like if you think of yourself, I don't know if you fish, but if you fish, if you think of yourself as sort of playing the fish, and when the fish pulls hard, you're at risk of losing the line or losing the hook. So you give a little to the fish, and then it darts the other way, and you take a little back, and you give, if you're into catching fish, which I have not been in since I was a teenager, but that's a visual for that. Sort of playing the rhythm, like giving it and then pulling it back and giving it and pulling it back. And no fish are harmed in the making of this music. So if we now play through this chorus, we have available doing the percussive stuff that we had in the verse. We have available the more up strums, and we have the nice syncopation that happens of the rhythm of the words against the busy up strums, and then given a little break from there. Plus, like I said, whatever we do with the percussive, there's a whole bunch you can do. Each time you play this chorus, you could do it a little differently. So. Now, there's another theme rhythm. And what am I doing there? I'm just going down, up, 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 down, up. But I'm accenting it to go da 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 da. The only thing that's different is where I'm ripping an up strum or a down strum a little harder. Da 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 da. So you're putting the accents to create a syncopation. Bum, bum, bum. Let's clap this out. Bum, 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 bum. And without the extra claps, bum, bum. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, and that comes out. And slowed way down. So it's down, up, 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 down. And again, that's like having two rhythms, one rhythm superimposed on the other. And if you're doing it with this bar F sharp, here's the beat, if you can hear that in the mic. Let's see. Yeah, we're getting a little thump there. Doing the beat with my head. And that's one of the theme rhythms of the song, is that little syncopation thing happening. And you can even go... At the end of it, slow down. So there's a cutoff on an up strum and then a snare down strum. If I break it, I can't do it in rhythm. See that? A good way to practice that is just go down, up, down, up, down, up. And then release this finger at random strums. You could do more snares than strums. You can get crazy with the variations on that little exercise. And I'm just doing one of those little snare releases, right? Releases and snares in this. But if you can just do the if you can just get that accented rhythm in there, that alone goes a long way to making the song sound like what it sounds like. So, so we have the chorus and we have the verse. Now, while we're on the chorus here, there's a couple nice little melody bits you can put in here. So it goes, welcome to the Hotel California, da-dum-da-dum-bum-bum. There's that little slide guitar line that also reminds you of almost of mariachi trumpets, because Hotel California, certainly this pays some good homage to the Spanish music in the early settlement days of California and continuing to this day. And that's those mariachi trumpets in harmony. And they were emulating that with the guitar harmonies there. But so you have welcome to the Hotel California. And that the actual one they play at the beginning there is da 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 ba da da bum bum bum. Welcome to. So you notice that this welcome, the welcome comes in on the second beat. Welcome to the Hotel California. Da 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 da. Ba da da dum bum bum. That's the rhythm for that. And it's this mini chord where you second fret and then third fret on the middle string. And then you move it up, da, da, and then back down to where you were, da. So that's the first bit, da, da, da. And then you go up to the fourth fret, da, and then third fret, and back to here. So there's second fret, there's third fret, and there's fourth fret. Da, 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 da. Very Mexican Spanish sounding. So we have da, 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 da. Plenty of, welcome to the Hotel California. Da, 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 da. Sorry. Da, 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 da. I won't sing it. Plenty of, welcome to the Hotel California. There we go. A little slower. Welcome to the Hotel California. Now, when I play this, and I play this song for fun once in a while, I don't do the da 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 da. I don't do that little pickup da da da. I just go da 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 da. Because where you've got the lead guitar coming in behind the other instruments, it stands out. So it's plenty of welcome to the Hotel California. Da, 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 da. It's like a sound out of left field, so it stands and rides on top of everything. But if you're already strumming all this, I'd rather have that little melody be a little more blocked and a little less rhythmic. Welcome to the Hotel California. You could just go bum ba dum. That's the part that sticks in your ear because you're still finishing the other part of the regular strum there. Now this is a subtlety, and you can play the whole thing, or you could go da dum da dum da dum, or you could just go finish the strum, California, California, dum da dum, dum da dum. That's down down up, down down up, bum ba bum. That rhythm is a little simpler to do, and I think it goes in a little smoother. But again, that's all your choice there. Welcome to the Hotel California. And the fancy way it goes ba da da bum ba dum, and I just hear this a little more da dum da da dum da 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 bum ba dum. So if I'd been there arranging it with them, they wouldn't have liked what I did, maybe, because they chose the other thing. But you can choose either, because you're making up your own arrangement. Oh, yeah, see, so Heather is saying she's discovered that if you arpeggiate the verse chords, it pretty much plays the famous intro, and we're going to get to that. That's a very good observation, Heather, and I'm proud of you discovering that, too. So we've got, we'll finish up with this chorus, and then we're going to go back to the verse. And we've got, welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place. And you could do a little hammer-on from the F sharp bar, hammer on the middle string, one fret up. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place. And a little hammer-on in the B minor. There's a bass run we're going to do in a bit on there. Are we doing it on time? Yeah, we're good. And plenty of room at the Hotel California. And then maybe do the fancy one the second time. Any time of year, you can find it here. And if you want to do a fancy thing there, bum, 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 bum. Down, down, up, down, down. Down, down, up, down, down. Down, down. Sorry. Down, down, up, down, up, up, down. Down, down, up, up, down. Down, down, up, up, down. And then it goes to the verse. Now I'm going to bring the verse back. So the couple different arpeggios you could do for this. just alternating, which we've done that before. Third string, first string, second string, first string. It helps a lot if you plant your fingers against the edge here someplace, depending on the size and shape of your hand. So you have a little reference for where the strings are that is just inches away from your picking fingers, as opposed to the nearest reference being where your forearm touches the end of the instrument. Now there's a much longer lever arm there, so you've got, it's harder to be precise when you're moving bigger muscle groups than when you're moving smaller muscle groups. So I'm positioning the pick for this arpeggio by opening and closing my hand against these fingers lightly resting on the bottom here, like that. You can experiment with that. So this is just alternating 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now look, sometimes you're going to miss the first string, the second string, and you'll wind up hitting the first string twice in a row, like that. That's fine. You could do the second string twice in a row, or a true alternating. Then the E, then the G. Now sometimes you might hit two strings where you're aiming for one. I was trying to go, and I went, and there's a perfectly legitimate and good sounding variation on it. This D. Now, when you're doing the arpeggio, to break out the notes in the chord, you can hear the difference in different chord fingerings a little more profoundly, because if I do, like for this D, this D, this D, this D, and then this D, and this D, which are an octave higher than their downer versions. So each of those, the little sort of melody that the arpeggio makes is different for each of those. And then the F sharp, we just really have one choice there. But the A, this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. Then the E, we have this one. Now there's one E on this drumstick that is actually an actual E major chord, and that is, you play, let's see, this is a hand stretcher. I've got fret number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the first finger. Now swing your elbow way in, because you're going to need all this hand to get over way up here to this fret. So we've got 5, and then 6, 7 with either the second finger or the third finger. Now, third finger is going to be happier there, but we're going to need the pinky, so we might want to boost ourselves down by stretching a little bit to get the first finger in there on the middle string at the 7th fret, and then at the 9th fret, my pinky. And that's a regular, it's a major chord in E, an E major chord. So if you did this A here, and then this chord, and then the G, as compared to this G, or this G, or just this G, substitute G with an extra note in it, still a nice sounding substitute. And then the E minor, but there's also, I'm sorry, the E minor there, and then the F sharp, and at the beginning, the B minor, instead of this one, there's this B minor. Now this A. Sorry. And then this E. But since I'm already up here, what was I doing? Which chord was I? Was on the A. That was this one here. So this is the place to do the fancy E. I believe it or not, I've not played that E major chord before on the drumstick. So this A to this E, or this A to this A, E, then this G, and this D, and then the E minor, and the F sharp. You could jump from this F sharp to this F sharp. So there's that arpeggio. That's this one way to do the arpeggio. Now, the melody to the song is pretty simple, and it's interesting because a lot of the melody notes are not directly in the chord that's happening at that point. So it goes on a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. Even though it's an F sharp, which would have this note, cool wind in my hair, but it goes cool wind in my hair. So they're playing the F sharp plus this note, which makes an F sharp seventh, cool wind in my hair. And then warm smell of colitas, warm smell of colitas, rising up through the air. That part, rising up through the air. So now if you can work those melody notes in while doing the arpeggio a little bit, you have, what am I'll tell you, I haven't practiced this. The G, even though it's a G chord, you think this would be the note or this would be the note. It's this F sharp note here on the second fret. So up ahead in the distance. I got to take it in context here. Rising up through the air, up ahead in the distance, up ahead in the distance. So it's a up ahead in the distance. I saw a shimmering light. My eyes grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. I had to stop for the night. I had to stop for the night. So you could just go. So you could work that melody a little bit into the arpeggio. Maybe just do the G chord without the melody. I saw a shimmering light. You could even little dramatic chord there. Then plenty of room at the Hotel California. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. And here's this F sharp place with the F sharp seventh. Lovely place. Such a lovely. it's a chord after the a lovely place, the B minor there, right? Yeah. Such a lovely place, such a lovely face. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. A little harmony here. Slide this up 1 fret. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. Da 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 da. On the E minor this time. Da 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 da. So bits of the melody there. Now there's a kind of a bass line that's played in the middle. It sounds melodically like a bass line, but it's not all the way down in the bottoms. Oh, sorry. So this melody starts up high and works down to the bottom notes. So you can listen to the recording of it and see if you can pull out some of those notes in there too. So it's dum, 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 dum. There's a couple little bass lines that go through there. Now then, we've got those parts. Now it goes through the 3 verses with the 2 choruses in between, and then it goes through a long sequence with those beautiful 2-note guitar harmonies happening that you could work something out. Now they're doing a thing kind of like... And then on the G, so that's a hint for some of the things that can go on in there. So we've got a bunch of rhythm choices we can make through it to make it big or to make it come back. The arpeggios, especially for the intro, as Heather discovered for us, and in the playing behind the 3rd verse, this arpeggio works in there also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now kind of just play through parts of the verses and parts of the choruses. I haven't got the words memorized, so I may sing the same words twice, or I may mix up words for the verses, but just to give you an idea where the chord changes come. And you can see some of the combinations that can be put together. And as always, all the things that we're doing in this song, anytime you're playing a B minor chord, if you've got this, or all the things you do on any chord in here, you could do on any chord in any song, and it might sound good or it might not sound good, but it's to you that it sounds good or doesn't sound good, and that's up to you. So let's see how I want to start this. I'm going to let Heather play along with this. Heather, you play the arpeggio, okay? Unfortunately, we can't hear you, so. I'm going to take it light, just the chords, the intro. Then again. And then you can just keep going. And if you have other people to play with, you can just go around and around and extend that instrumental part and everybody take a shot at it. But so there we have a whole bunch of different things you can do with Hotel California. And I hope you have fun with that this week. And we will be back next Thursday and do it again. And hopefully I'll have my normal camera working. And I hope these graphics came out a little clearer for you this time. I figured out a way to format them so that the edges of the letters are crisp even as they get transferred into the video. So be well and be safe, and I will see you next Thursday.